I want to make sure I promote my boy Nate.
Let's talk. So this is great, actually. I just want to say, like, I appreciate everybody's really getting into this. I like you're doing a good, like, you've ever really appealing production setting here. So tell us about what you got here at the desk.
Well, it's just a few things that I think as I try to as I was trying to map out my team and try to think about what my team was going to be like this year. I didn't want to go so much players. I feel like I've had a persona in the past
Yeah.
that really isn't what I wanted to do. So this year I was wanting to change the culture
Oh,
uh, around my team. So that's a big buzzword for us this year. It's been culture, and
love that.
so I've got some Shea Serrano, some original Nathaniel Creekmores over here,
Hello.
a conversion of Bill Sanchez. I think it really helped me.
Yeah.
And so it hasn't
Love.
translated into wins yet, but we'll get there eventually. That's just kind of how I see it. But you
I
should
love
pick up these if you don't have these yet. These are the basketball books to get for 2021 if you don't already have them. It's really from 2019, 2018, but
Get some guidance for your team, how to put your team together and whatnot.
yeah, and the things that really matter. It's not all about the stat line; it's about the narrative. It's
Yeah, I
that
hear you.
sort of thing.
So speaking of narrative, I really liked last week. Obviously, you and Carlos have connected. We talked about all that last week. I liked, I was looking at the matchups this week, and we had two really interesting matchups. We had the matchup, really, honestly, arguably two of the best. Well, we had two like top four matchups, really, like me and Blake, and then Dustin and Daniel. And so I was looking at it, but then we have on the opposite of the spectrum, you and Josh, the two like let's just say the two people most likely to not make the playoffs as of now. But it's a long season, so so I like that we had Carlos last week. We got you. So I don't know anything from Carlos last week that you want to kind of like follow up on or respond
Sure.
to.
No. A number of things. So first of all, Carlos was all like, "Yeah, I saw him. He was changing his lineups. He was doing this." Like my son was born. All right. I don't know what I was doing last week. I was half asleep. Like what this is like, man. You're kind of in a daze. You don't know what's going on. So I was like watching it. I was like on the toilet at like 3 a.m. 2 days ago watching this video. I was like, what in the world is all of these attacks? Like I'm over here trying to figure out fatherhood being attacked but someone I thought we were close friends. But look,
You thought, you
huh?
thought,
And you thought you were friends till fantasy sports comes up. Listen, Carlos, he mentioned something about because I remember some of the trades, right? One of the trades that we made that he feels like he got burned on was he traded Kristaps Porzingis. I think it's like whenever Kristaps Porzingis tore his ACL
okay,
on like that dunk. We made a trade, and he gave me Blake Griffin. It was a few pieces. It was like a few pieces.
yeah.
I got Blake Griffin. He got Kristaps. Next week he tears his ACL. I'm not trading him back. Like that's tough
Yeah, I
topic
do.
for
That's
you,
one, but
buddy.
I feel like there's been some other ones. But anyway, yeah, I hear you. I hear you. I
Sure,
hear you.
but I'm just saying, like everybody
I would
talks
say
about
the
the
league
of the
is
trade.
on notice on this situation, but I do
I've
hear you.
been
It's not all of them have not been as predatory as
I've been
they may
blackballed
seem.
from trades. And so it's interesting because Blake reached out to me about wanting to trade. And I'm like, I think Blake understands that I've been blackballed. He knows the itch that I have to trade. And so I think he thinks he's gonna take advantage of me.
He's counting on you only sleeping like in weird 2.5
Yeah.
hour intervals and
He's
stuff like
texting me
that.
like
You're
really
really
early
like
in the morning.
emotional and soft now. You used to be this like hardened person, but now you're all soft and you're just ready to kind of do
So
whatever.
he was like, "Hey man, what do you want from Vucevic?" He was like, "Yeah, I heard about Chris Levert. I'm really sorry about him. Who do you want for Vucevic?" I'm like, What is this?"
My sympathies. All right. So speaking of Levert, let's go to that. Let's talk. Speaking of being hardened, talk to me about like just having. First of all, how do you feel about having James Harden? Because I definitely have a philosophy of I want to be able to have guys that help me win. I also want to have guys that I don't feel like a bad person about having and that I enjoy watching.
Sure.
And I gotta be honest. There were some guys I'm just like they're not even on my draft list. Like it's not like on that like do not list. So anyway, tell me about having James Harden on your team because I imagine it's a really weird mixture. Great fantasy stats,
But yeah,
disgusting.
no. So it's funny because I actually I didn't do the auto draft. I mean, I didn't do the keeper. Trey Young would have been my keeper. I was like, no, because I saw Vucevic or Harden, and I'm like, well, that's a no brainer. I mean, Jokic or Harden. I forgot whoever picked up Jokic. I was the second pick, and I was really trying. I was like chatting. I was like, oh, James Harden's gonna have a great year. James Harden. Like they picked up Jokic, and I'm like, well, it's might as well draft James Harden. But then he's off partying. Like James Harden lives the complete opposite life that I currently live.
And
So,
like his basketball ethos is not anything that
no,
you like that any
no,
good
not at
basketball
all,
player likes.
not
Yeah.
at all. And so, like, And I'm like, what do you do with this? It's like, well, you want to win, but he's
I know.
a terrible dude. And then I'm also like, I'm in better basketball shape than James Harden, and I haven't ran in like 2 weeks. I'm like,
It would appear.
you
Yeah.
just, and now with the whole Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving mix, I'm like, what is it going to do to his fantasy value?
So what do you think about that? What do you think? Because I mean, obviously, the first game back didn't buy. What did he have, like 150
no
points
Kyrie.
that first game?
There was no Kyrie. He had great. He had a 30-point triple double. I may win this week because of the game he had yesterday. He had 73 fantasy points, but it's not going to hold. He talks about being motivated. Like everything James Harden says is a big lie. It's like he's like, oh, we're motivated, we're unselfish. Like you can't tell. I changed my team's name to Just Not Good Enough.
I saw it. We all noted. Yes.
It's just the classic James Harden. We're just not good enough. But he's a motivated player. It's like listen. I understand my team is not going to be great this year, but you know what? I'm playing for the future. I understand.
Okay.
That sometimes you got to tear things down. I may make some surprising trades. Y'all don't see. Here's the thing. If we're actually, Kamish, are we doing keepers next year, or are there no keepers?
No, it's every other year. So this year was a keeper year, and next year's a no keeper year.
Forget it, league. I was getting ready to really blow it up for somebody. Somebody was really going to be happy.
Oh, look out!
Ben Simmons, James Harden to get the player I wanted.
Who are you wanting?
Oh, Luka Doncic. What do you mean? Who do I want?
Oh, yeah. Well, the problem is now you and Carlos have this video, beef going.
Carlos would have traded. Listen, Carlos talks all this nonsense on these videos, and then you get him isolated. He's alone, and he's like, it's easy to break him down. You could just tell him.
Let's just pretend. Let me just throw something at you. Just fake trade. Let's pretend you're like 1-6. Like you're not making the playoffs even. Like, and if you do,
I just want Luka to have him.
You just want Luka just because, like, hey, I love this guy. Would you trade Ben Simmons and James Harden for Luka?
No, because I don't want Carlos to win that bad.
Oh, okay.
So,
all right.
So I would help.
3-team trade. You need somebody to make a kind of like good deal for Luka, and then you do that. You do like Ben Simmons and James Harden.
If
do a 3-teamer with you ended up with Luka, Carlos getting somebody from somebody else.
Correct. So I would do a James Harden and Rudy Gobert, or a James Harden and Vucevic is good. I like Vucevic. Blake's getting Vucevic, but I'm not tearing it down yet. I'm telling you. I know you're seeing 0-3 right now. You think I'm going to be 1-6. I'm going to be 1-3 after this week. Maybe I lose next week. I win 2 in a row. I'm 3-4. I'm back in this thing. That's how I view it.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, I'm not just looking at 0-3. I'm looking at 0-3. I'm looking at number 10 in total points scored.
My first week, I lost to Matt, who put up the most points that week, and I was like second or third. And so if I had played,
we're at week 3 now, or we're almost done with week 3, and you're at like number 10. And it's not,
I had a bad
almost at number 11. You're 4 points off of. I'm looking at it right now.
Was born last week.
Be at number 11.
Listen, after the first week, had a great week. The second week, we need to call a wash. I wasn't even really here. I'm back.
All right. I like the confidence, man. I like the confidence. I'm just saying, it sure sounds like that. There's, I think some GMs need to be cooking up how to get Luka, and then how to.
If anybody else gets Luka, boy, they have themselves. I'm trading draft picks. I'm trading anything. I'm trading the farm.
I can't wait. We need to get that going. Like, it would be so complicated for people to keep track of it. But if we're good on honor system, I'm happy for you to be trading draft picks. That'd be great.
I tried to. So with Carlos, I actually told him, I said, Carlos, I will give you. I offered him my first round, like the keeper pick, plus my second pick for Luka, and like his 5th pick.
Whoa.
And he said no.
That's tough. That was a good offer.
He could have had.
So coming back to the Harden trade, though, your team's actually interesting because, and I thought the other day, I noticed. Oh yeah. So you got 3 like key figures. I mean, LeVert now that he's on IR, and maybe, oh man, I mean, legit, like this guy's
big deal.
Some really bad problems, but Simmons, it'll be interesting to see. Is this like, do we get Ben Simmons revenge tour the rest of the year, where he's like, no, I'm gonna prove to y'all that I got it going. Harden, what's going to happen with him? Does he end up basically icing Kyrie out of out of production, or does he end up taking a step back? And then LeVert, what's he going to do in Indiana? I mean, I would have thought that I think your team would have actually gotten a bump up with both Simmons and LeVert. I think Brock would have done this thing with Ben Simmons where he would have made Simmons be like, hey, they didn't believe in you, and he would tell some Chris Paul story or somebody story. And I don't know, or some story when he was playing with Dominique or something like that, and he would inspire him. But I don't know now that LeVert's on the IR, but it was interesting how that trade really came around your team.
Yeah, no, I thought the Karis LeVert thing was like getting traded to Indiana to me. I was like, well, this is best case scenario. Like, this is gonna be great. I think maybe like maybe a bigger question to ask is like, who's gonna party more this year, Kyrie Irving or James Harden? Like, I've thought about that. Like, who's gonna be gone more? Like, will Kyrie, because apparently he was gone. He was just
Kyrie.
like, yeah, Kyrie was gone. James Harden.
Kyrie's gonna be gone. Yeah.
Kyrie likes to fancy himself in places that I'd rather not mention in videos,
Yeah.
just because it makes my team look bad, I think. And
I
so
hear you.
I'm trying to think like I'm trying to give myself right. Kyrie will probably be gone another 10 to 15 games this year, which will bump up James Harden's stats. I think James Harden likes playing with Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
It's not like him and Westbrook where the games like they don't mesh. It seems like he and Kevin Durant will mesh together. I think Ben Simmons, he had a triple double his last game today. He was an assist shy of a triple double. So I stand by Ben Simmons. I need the point guard forward position. I made a mistake in drafting too many centers. Truth be told, and so I'm looking to
A couple
offload
teams did that actually. It's funny. You and Josh are sort of in the showdown of the centers. Like Josh has what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4 centers, and you got the same. Is that right?
Yeah, I've got Rudy Gobert, Rashawn Holmes, who's also power forward center, Bobby Portis power forward center, DeAndre Jordan just center, Nikola Vucevic just center. So I've got 5 guys who can play the center position. It's tough when you can only slot one dude in there. So
Yeah. And it is actually going to be an interesting test. I mean, we'll see. Like, there's a lot of season to go, but if you guys end up near the bottom, that might be something everybody needs to take note of like, hey, you know what? You could get a mediocre to low grade center and instead get yourself a guard or a forward, and that might be a way to go.
That's what and I love my guards. I've got Ben Simmons and James Harden at the guard positions, and so what I need is a good forward, a really good forward. And so I'm willing to trade Rudy Gobert or Nikola Vucevic to get a really good forward. And now here's a little tactic I had that I thought it was like a little Bill slide tactic I thought would work in my advantage, right? So if you look at my team and you look at my IR, you see a little Chris Dunn hanging out in the IR. Because my thought was, here's my Hawk that will never get. He's on the team.
Yep.
I don't have to play him. We've got 2 IR slots. I can just slide him on in there. It'll be fine, and I can do with my team what I want to do. And it has not worked out for me up to this point. And so it's kind of backfired.
Punished, man. That's you getting punished. You're an Atlanta man. You birthed your child in Atlanta. You're watching them, but you were there, and you're disrespecting the ATL. So that's what you get for it. No. All right, so here we go. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we need to talk about before we go. But here's my last question. On your Harden and Irving partying thing, who do you think is a worse person to hang out with? Like, just less enjoyable, and just pretend that it's going to be like pleasant like godly activities, which I know that's a stretch, but let's just pretend that these guys, like, we're going out for dinner, bowling, a prayer meeting, whatever, fill in the blank. Who do you think is more joyless to hang with? Because I think it's Kyrie, but
it has to be Kyrie Irving. So here's my thing. I think I would much rather if I had to be with either one of them and not talk to them at all. I don't think I would mind being with Kyrie that much. If I had to have a conversation with Kyrie Irving, I think I'd have a hard time. Like, James Harden kind of says some ridiculous things, but at least he's like, he lives in this planet. I'm not entirely sure, like, where Kyrie actually dwells. Like, I think Kyrie lives on Earth. I think maybe he has fallen off the flat line that he was on, and I don't know where really he's landed or he's descended to. But every time I hear Kyrie Irving talk or even like a press conference, like the things he said about Steve Nash, like, yeah, we don't have a head coach. Well, this is a Hall of Fame point guard who is top 5, top 10.
He was basically a coach when he was playing. Like, he was already a coach when he was playing.
Yeah. It's just like that sort of thing. I'm like, dude, what is your deal? Like, I mean, honestly, Kyrie Irving in some ways reminds me, like, isn't like, I don't know, it's sound dumb, but like Kyrie Irving reminds me of myself 10 years ago, like at 18, which is kind of a problem because he's my age now. Like, right. You know what I mean? Like, Kyrie at some point, man, just like grow up. I don't know.
I love that. Look, there's a lot of basketball players this goes for where, like, you can ask somebody if they're a real NBA fan and be like, hey, tell me who some of your favorite people are. And whenever they tell you, you learn whether or not, like, you would be friends with that person.
Yeah.
And Kyrie's on the list of, if you tell me, like, Kyrie's one of my favorite players, I guess, I mean, somebody, probably the next person's coming next week and say, but I'm like, we're probably only in Christ we'd be friends. That's the only way we can make it.
If you tell me James Harden's your favorite player, I feel the same way about that. Yeah. If you tell me Draymond Green's no one. Draymond Green's like he's not his favorite player. I don't know what I'm talking about.
No, yeah, nobody says that. Anyway, yeah, man. So we'll see. I mean, it's a bummer on that whole thing. When I moved here, the Nets were like, okay, like the Hawks are my love, but I can support the local team here. It's cool. Like they're a fun team. Dinwiddie, LeVert, Harris, the whole thing.
More.
Even D'Lo was fine when he was here. But then they get KD and Kyrie. I was like, I don't know. And I bought like I had no Brooklyn paraphernalia of any kind, except I got a hoodie that was like, says Brooklyn's got the Nets thing. It's not a big Nets thing. It's a Brooklyn thing really, but I got it. And then they made the trade like 2 months later. And I was like,
and now you look like a bandwagon fan, by the way.
No, I'm not wearing it anymore. That's what I was like. Once Harden got traded, I was like, I'm done. I'm not I'm not a supporter. I'm not wearing that hoodie anymore. That was now like I got my whatever $30 out of it. So it's over.
So what? Let me ask you, Commish, one last question before we start to wrap it up here. Last week, I heard someone say something that I thought was almost as wild as the things Carlos was saying, talking about a particular trade that was made a few years ago and coming to terms with the trade and where the teams are right now. And do you think that Trae Young is in the same stratosphere as Luka Doncic?
Stratosphere statistically and what he's doing for his team? Is that what you're asking? What do you mean stratosphere?
Sure. However you want to take it, you can take it.
No, he definitely is. He is not at all a player that I enjoy watching. If he was on any other team, I'd absolutely hate him. It makes me disappointed every time, every time he does stuff that makes
very Atlanta player, by the way.
Let
me just say, he's a very Atlanta player, by the way. Trae Young to me strikes me as like, this is the kind of player Atlanta would like.
Yeah. No, I mean, no, I will never I'm gonna coming to terms. That's what you say like whenever you're a kid and like your dog gets run over in front of you. Like you're out there playing in the yard, and then like a bus just drives by and runs over your dog, and you're just like, wow, I guess I got to move on. But that really is hurtful. That's how I am when I see Trae do anything. Like, no, look, and I mean, it's terrible. So, I mean, fortunately, Schlink is a good GM and he's put together a team that will work around Trae. I will never believe that Schlink, because whenever he talks about that trade, he's never been like, look, Trae was our guy the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
He's always like, well, really, they were 1A, 1B. He never says which was which. And he always makes sure to say it's 1A, 1B. I will never not believe that Wrestler called Schlink and was like, listen, I heard about getting extra draft picks. Sounds like we can get an extra one. That's cool. And everybody likes this Trae Young kid. I think Quavo is going to come to a lot more games because they're buddies. I guarantee you that's what it was. Schlink will never say it, but but fortunately Schlink is, I think, a pretty good GM and he's putting a good team around him. So
who do you think goes farther this year, the Hawks or the Mavs?
Legitimately the Hawks. Easier conference. And I think a better team all the way around, because unless Kristaps comes back, if Kristaps is healthy, sure. But I think if we're talking I think there's a better chance that we end up moving forward because of the conference we're in and because of the type of team that's built around.
Okay.
That's my guess. Plus, I got to say it. You got to believe the opposite. All right. Well, listen, so we're recording this on Sunday night. You're currently up by about 50 points. Basically, Josh needs Kawhi to go nuts tonight. And Steven Adams to pick it up here in a minute. So we'll see what happens. But you may be coming out with your first W. I did not think that was possible, by the way. Even when I texted you yesterday or today about us jumping on, I didn't think it's possible. But anyway, we've gone too long. We need to stop because everybody's getting bored of these. These things are getting longer every week, so we're going to stop here. But this is fun, and good luck building the culture of your team. And Bill's open for business, everybody.